Okay, in this video we were looking at absolute value inequalities. Now absolute values we denote with these strange vertical lines here. It means basically if you have any value you make that value positive. So for example here, if you took the value -2 and made it positive, it would give you 2. So x could be -2, or in this case here, even if you started with a positive value like x equals 2, the absolute value of 2 would also be 2. This absolute value of x thing means that the distance that x is from the origin is equal to 2. Now that means that if you have absolute value of x less than 2, well, you could have x equals 1, or x equals 1.5, or x equals a half. But you could also have x equals -1, or -1.5, or -0.5, or 0. It means that the distance of x from 0 is less than 2. So the solution set for that would be between -2 and 2. All these values, if you take the absolute value of 1, it's less than 2. Absolute value of 0, less than 2. Absolute value of -1 is less than 2. Absolute value of -1.5 is less than 2. Similarly, if you have x is more than or equal to 2, that means that the distance is greater than or equal to 2. So everything over here is more than 2 units away from 0. Everything over here is more than 2 units away from 0. In general, you can remember, everything depends on what we've just seen up here. I wouldn't try to memorize these expressions down here, but just try and remember, if you've got less than, that means it's got to be between, and if it's more than, it is outside that inside part. Okay, so that's where these solutions here, these number lines, where those come from. Now, if you have absolute value inequality like this thing up here, what we've got to do first before solving it is isolating the absolute value part of it. So we need to have this absolute value of 2x plus 1 absolute value. We need to have that on its own on one side of the equation, of the inequality. So to do that, we're going to first of all get rid of this -2. We're going to add 2 to both sides. If you do that, we'll get this. Right? So we've got this -2. We've added 2 to both sides, so we've ended up with 12 over here, and we've got rid of that -2 there. Then we would divide, in this case, both sides by 3. If we divide both sides by 3, we get this. Now, at this stage, we need to say that the thing inside the absolute value symbol, that thing, that 2x plus 1, has to be between -4 and 4. Right? So it's a thing that's inside the absolute value that's between -4 and 4. So we'll write that like this. Now, we haven't quite finished yet, because we want eventually to have just x in the middle instead of this. So we've got to simplify this expression now. We can subtract 1 from both sides, so we get this, and then we can divide both sides by 2, and if we do that, we should end up with this expression here. When I say divide both sides, I also mean you have to divide the 2x by 2 to get x. And then if we want to try to write or draw a number line for that to make it clear what that solution set is, it's between -2.5 and 1.5. So it should look something like this. Now remember, when we don't have an equal sign, when it's just less than, like it is here, we have empty circles at the ends.